All right, I thought I would give a try to recording live again, since it seemed to be fairly popular. I've made a few tweaks to the deck, kind of in preparation. There's a new card that's coming out that's going to be a 2-drop artifact that is a command tower. So it doesn't come into play tapped. So it's like a 2-drop artifact that's going to tap for anything in your commander's colors is going to be um, amazing. That's for monocolored decks, specifically mono green. It's not necessarily much, but for pretty much everybody else, so for even mono black, any monocolor deck that wants to accelerate, but more importantly, multicolor decks like Breya, that card's going to be fantastic. So I want to play with some cards in the deck, and what I've been doing is I actually decided to temporarily cut a card that seems like it should be 100% no-brainer in the deck, and yet I'm not sure that it should be. And that card is Karn, the smaller Karn. So this guy, Scion of Urza. So I've been really like thinking this card's insane, right? Because it often kicks out 6/6s, 7/7s, stuff like that. Even with just Breya, Karn, you get a 4/4. And if you have any mana rocks or whatever, it goes from there. Thing is, producing big creatures is not really, like, this deck isn't really focused on doing that. It's not advancing the deck's agenda. The agenda of this deck is to draw cards, but mostly the agenda is mana superiority. That's what this deck's all about. So Karn doesn't really lead to that directly. You can um, slowly pick up some extra mana with the +1, sometimes in conjunction with the -1, but that's not. It's very slow, and because the deck runs Necro, it's often you're looking at these like slow card advantage effects as being very mediocre. Way too slow for what you're trying to do. I mean, imagine if you have a Necro out and you've got Karn in your hand, you've got a bunch of other things you can do like develop and disrupt. Karn just sits in your hand waiting for nothing to be going on, and then you'll get around to playing it. That's usually the sign of a card that probably shouldn't be in the deck. So for now, I'm going to cut it. The other thing, so I wanted an extra mana rock. I went ahead and I had taken the Talisman of Creativity out. I went ahead and put it back in. I really want the other card that I was talking about that produces 1 mana of your commander's colors also in the deck, along with all these talismans. But if I had to replace one, of course, it would be the Creativity. But I would prefer to stack them. The other thing I did was I went ahead and reduced my land count slightly, and I actually added Serum Visions into the deck. This card effectively gets you 3 cards deeper. I mean, if you have Serum Visions and a 1-land hand, and you play Serum Visions on the neck, you're going to draw a card, so you're 1 card deeper. You're going to scry 2 cards to the bottom, so you're 3 cards deeper. And then on the next turn, you're going to draw, and that'll be your 4th card. So if you have a 1-land hand, you've got, by the time your second turn rolls around, you've got 4 chances to see a land. That's pretty good. I think good enough that it will be a card that I want to keep, but I'm going to try to reduce the land count and use the Serum Visions to mitigate the fact that I have less land. Because midway through the game, top decking a Serum Visions can turn into a land for very cheap, but it can also turn into something else when you don't need more lands. It's also an extra blue card because we have, Force of a Negation has been added to the deck as well as Force of Will, so more blue cards for forcing with is good. The other thing I did was, so the land that I took out was the Throne of the High City. I like Throne a whole lot actually. Against control, however, frequently Cavern of Souls is just a smidge better because you can push out Dark Confidant, your commander and stuff, and put pressure on your opponent. And of course now we have Urza. Urza, incidentally, is the other reason why I cut Karn. Urza is a 4-drop card that gives you the Karn effect, but it also advances the deck's agenda of mana superiority. And theoretically, you can also use it to get cards, although I've never activated the 5 even when I could. But the point is, the mana superiority effect of Urza is incredible. And then, of course, as a human, what I was saying against Mono Blue Cavern of Souls being so good. Works really nicely with Urza. It doesn't do anything with Karn. If Karn was an artifact that we could occasionally cheat out with Workshop, then of course I would just, I think I would just leave it in there. Or maybe before Urza was printed, but I think Urza is basically Karn, except with a focus on exactly what this deck wants to be doing. And as I was saying with Throne, it's a little bit slow. It's very powerful, but the problem always is that this deck runs Necropotence, and no matter what like slow card advantage effects you can put into the deck, like at 4 mana or up, so basically Jam Day tomes, the deck runs Necro, and once you stick a Necropotence, you just don't care about cards like that. One extra card per turn is a joke with Necro, especially when they're 4 mana. You need to have cheap cards that you can dump onto the table quickly to take advantage of the Necro. And slow mana card draw is not it. But a 4 mana card that produces tons of mana, often way more than it costs, is definitely where you want to be. So that certainly works. Throne of the High City was falling into the same problem with the Necro. And so I just cut it and put in the Serum Visions, and I'd rather just have one more way to dig for Necropotence or a way to play it. And finally, the other land that I pulled was the blue-red land that you could sack to draw a card. It's cool, it's cute, but Talisman of Creativity is in that slot. It's a blue-red artifact that you can sack to Breya. It's just better. It's more focused on what this deck is trying to do. Plays nicely with Winter Orb, and the fact that I don't have that cute little combo with Crucible Worlds is no big deal because I still have the Cephalid Coliseum if I want to sack a land with my Crucible. I'm going to dig much faster with Coliseum, and of course Coliseum plays a role in the ability to lock your opponent out with Narset or severely punish them. So that's all the thoughts there. Let's go see if I can get some games going, and hopefully we'll have an entertaining video here for you. I never know what is going to happen in these, and we'll see. Also, I've only played for about a day like this. It was a good day. I didn't lose any games, but 29 lands light, and maybe I will find out that I want to add a little bit more mana, and I'll put some more back in, or maybe I'll miss Karn or something along those lines, and we'll see. We'll tweak it. The other thing, though, with the 29 land Serum Visions type build is that with the new Mulligan rules, I think you can take advantage of a slightly lower mana count, and the deck is better for doing that because Mulligans are a lot safer now, and so if you mulligan, excuse me, it's more important to quickly make up for the mulligan than it is to mulligan less, actually. Oh no. Well, this looks like it's going to be a rough start for me. I don't have a Dak Fade or anything along those lines. My opponent's got one insane start. I don't normally like to do this, but I want their Fellwar Stone in the off position, so I'm going to lead off with a fetch land to try to slow down their development here a little bit to buy myself time to get the mana leak going. 1, 2, 3, 4. If they play a land, it's 5, so they can't actually play Tasigur because the Fellwar doesn't tap for anything. And that might get me enough time to get a mana leak and then counter it on the way down next turn. Okay. I am, however, thinking about whether or not I want to brainstorm here because I might not have time. On the other hand, if I wait a little bit longer, yeah. So I'm gonna wait because if I'm lucky, I'll draw. Okay, I didn't draw one. But what I was hoping to draw with there was a fetch land, a second fetch, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My opponent could cast Tasigur without having an active Fellwar Stone. And of course, I'd have to fetch in response, but it would just make it a little bit harder for them to make their play. I didn't get that, so we'll go with the Hallowed Fountain. Now, if my opponent decides to not make the Tasigur play, I held the Brainstorm, so here I can Brainstorm fetch. But I can't imagine why they would decide not to do that. Their hand is on the board. They want to refill their hand, and this is the best way for them to do it. So gonna have to go this route, get that underground. And unfortunately, my opponent can just replay it next turn if they have a single mana source. That could be very good. Let's. I need some help here. So here, I got held off on the brainstorm as long as I could. Okay, okay. Kill the mana crypt here is solid. So my opponent is going to, I'm going to put a land down. Am I going to Dark Confidant? I don't think I am going to play Dark Confidant, so I might as well hide the Confidant at this point. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They can exile this, make 6, but then they're a little bit shy, so I am going to take this out right now. And this gets me 1 black away from a Necro if I want to slam Necro. Okay. Oh, it's a Seal of Cleansing. Interesting. Forgot they had made a green one. So I can go with Breya. My opponent can just kill it and have exactly enough mana to play Tasigur. So I'm not super excited by that plan. I can also go with Dark Confidant. And then my opponent has no target. And lastly, I could throw down Winter Orb here. I expect my opponent would kill it and then they would Tasigur, tapping out for Tasigur, exiling Crypt and Primordium. But then that gives me a chance to draw a land, so I get 2 hits, and then if I draw a land, I slam land to fairy, exile this, and we're set. I still have the same opportunity here. But that clears the way for like Gilded Lotus and stuff. I think this is better though. My opponent's seen it counters, so obviously like they're gonna have a little bit of respect for that. Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, so they don't actually have enough mana to do much here. This is good. Buying time is really the goal. I mean, I could slam Necro. It's the same kind of an idea here. But let's see, they're totally tapped out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They can definitely play their commander. So the question is, do I want to orb and try to get this seal off the board? They may not. The problem is they may not sack the seal. They may not play the way I want them to if I orb. And that could be somewhat of a disaster, so I'm not going to do it. If I had something like a way to get the sword down, then I would definitely do it. But all right, here comes the Tasigur, I assume. Yeah. And then these go away. Oh, Cruise. Interesting. Not as bad to me. So they don't get a board presence out of that. They got some cards, but I'm going to... The cards issue is already... Like, we're even on cards, basically. Okay. So I could throw down... Lotus... 9, 10. Okay, so their commander costs 8. Yeah, they've got tons. So I could throw down Lotus Necro. I actually really like that. Because it gives them 2 targets for Seal of Primordium. The correct one for them to kill is probably the Lotus. But at the same time, it's a difficult situation regardless, and um, they're tapped out, and it lets me draw 4 immediately. So, or 3. And if they kill the Necro, I just get my draw phase back. If they don't kill the Necro, well, I mean, I can probably over Necro a little bit, but I think that's all right. All right, cool. So they killed it. That's what I was hoping for. Basically, my draw 3 just made up for their treasure cruise in terms of card count. And I got to keep my Lotus, which makes up for these 3. So I'm actually ahead on board. See, my opponent's got 8 mana. I've got 8 mana. But I'm drawing 2 cards per turn. They're down to 2 cards. Oh, yeah, so they're down to just 2 cards in hand, and I'm down to 7. If this is our commander, this just doesn't work out great for them. They're going to try and keep as many cards in their graveyard as they can, of course. Yeah, this is just no good for them. I can orb them down here. They left me with a creature, too. That was just not a good card to be playing against me, frankly. All right, so 2, 3, 1, 2 to equip, 2 for orb. I like that. So 2, 3. 2 to equip. Orb. We'll get our mana back in just a second. Take away 50% of my opponent's hand. So I can snap brainstorm. Do I want to bother with that? I don't think I do. 2, 3, 4. Let's make sure I got this right. Okay, so yeah, and a blue. All right, vindicate the Belwar, of course. Sneak this guy out. Make that go away. And yeah, we're all set. And then I'll snap vindicate the artifact mana off the board in just a second. Sure. Sure. Alright, so I can Snapcaster during combat, but it's probably easier to just play my commander, attack, get all my mana back, and then make my play, so. Excuse me. I could Factor Fiction, but yeah, there we go. Hope abandoned, that's awesome. So here's a good example, though. Obviously, like I was talking about Karn earlier, so obviously I could play Karn here, but it's just win more. I kill a little bit faster, not a hell of a lot faster. I could use it to slowly draw cards, but frankly, I've got a Factor Fiction here, so I mean, I was going to see 5 more cards. And within those 5 cards, I was going to draw more cards and more cards and more cards. The deck has so many cards, and it has them right now rather than later. So, yeah, not really, not really great there as far as like it wouldn't have affected that game in the slightest bit right there. Um, hmm. But that was just one game, and we'll see. We'll see. So when the set comes out, let's see if I can find MTG Salvation. Is the place I saw this, and it was not what I thought it was going to be in. It's MTG. Yeah. So the card was not spoiled. I thought it'd be under Commander 2019. Taps for a color of your commanders, but no, it's under this Throne of Eldraine. 2 cards spoiled. Arcane Signet is one of them. Tap, add a mana of any color in your commander's color identity. That is going to be just put it in Breya and forget about it. It never comes out. So which card does that replace? I'm not exactly sure. Like I said, it could be this um, because it's strictly better than, well, any of the talismans, but the red splash is the weakest. But I kind of like the idea of having all 3 talismans plus that card. I'm not going to replace Grim because Grim is just a busted card that allows you to do things way too quickly, like turn 2 Grim, turn 3 Treachery into something, to Fairy, Gilded Lotus. Those high-end plays just gross. And of course, Big Mind Twist and so forth. So what are we playing against here? Anyway, so that card's not getting, uh, a meme deck. That's fine. I mean, the last one was a nice battle. This one's going to be, well, it's a meme deck. It's going to be exactly that. Okay, so they're going to get a bunch of these, and then eventually they get to get a demon creature card, and it's not going to be Grizzlebrand, and other than that, there aren't too many demons that matter, and I'll probably Cryptic it, and that'll be the end of that game. Or I'll just wait till they get up to 5 mana and just Toxic Deluge them all off the board. So I could get a tap land here. I am going to play Merchant Scroll next turn, so to prevent some damage or force me to go get. But I'm actually a little shy on mana, so I'd like to not thin the deck ever so slightly. All right. So I'll get Underground and a Tundra. I could stick the Mana Leak. I mean, it's a strange one with this. As long as it's less than 7, I don't need to worry about it too much. I think I've got... I think I'd rather just go get a Mana Drain. Is that really the card I want here? It almost always is when it's not Force of Will. I think it's correct. I could go get Mystical Tutor here, I suppose. But I severely need mana. So if my opponent runs out a couple Shadowborns, I might actually end up regretting this choice. Mystical Tutor might have been correct to set me up, because I could have Mystical Tutored for Tithe. I could have Mystical Tutored for, a number of different options. Of course, if I hit a 3rd land, then I've got Crucible fetches running. So there's reasons to not go with the Tithe out. I expect my opponent plays their commander here, right? Yeah, because they want to get under the mana drain. And then for some reason they're just giving me tons of life by not attacking. It seems pretty bad. Sure. Guess I'm done. So at this point, my opponent... but if my opponent wants, like, and that wasn't a threat, so tapping down, like, to telegraph this and get them to make that play and not do anything that significantly threatens the board. What is it, 6 I think they need? Let me just make sure. Yeah, 6. Okay. Okay, we'll just stop that one. Yeah, at some point they're going to attack, right? Yeah, there you go. Remember, you can also win this game. You don't you don't have to win in a total meme. Okay, cool. So with this, I can set up for a mana drain. I can go get Toxic Deluge and then just blow my opponent out. So we'll do that. So T, where are you? Letter T. There you go, and it's black. Okay. Hope I got the right card. So I need one extra mana here to get. If there's nothing too threatening here, one more mana will get me to being able to. There we go. To being able to play Crucible. So if I play a land, I could play Coalition Relic, and then I could play. Cool. So now the Deluge will kill this thing. 3, 6, 9, 12, 18. Actually, it's a lot of life. Maybe I should have maybe I should have stopped the commanderettes. Actually, I didn't really think about that too hard, I suppose. Oh, whatever. We'll see what happens here. So I pay 4 life, and then I've got to pay 3 more, or else they're going to get it all back. 3 per. But I only need to stop. Yeah. All right, so let's do this. Yeah, it's fine. Okay, so this is all the apostles. So interesting. So I usually have enough life to stop this from mattering. So if they get 4 of these guys out, I've got 2 turns to find mana. It's interesting. They do have to actually play it. All right. I'm just going to yield to this. Yeah, I should have stopped their commander here. I don't know what I was thinking. I guess I wasn't really taking this deck too seriously. It's fine. But, I mean, it's not fine. It's probably something I can recover from. Let's put it that way. This very bad play is what it is. I should have held out, countered this, and then left them with a bunch of garbage and then killed their board. Okay, but if they're going to do this... Interesting. Can I please draw a land? For the love of Mike. So if I play... I really need to draw a land. A land there would have been all the difference in the world. Yeah, sure. Because once Breya is down, I don't care about these things, but if Breya doesn't come down... Maybe I just borrow some mana from this guy? It seems so bad. Fine. It's terrible, actually, but it might be necessary. Huh. Wow. Still no land. So if I play Relic, copy the Relic, Opal is one route. Coalition, but it's going to cost me life. Yeah. And very bad mana situations. It cost me life. Again. Yeah, I definitely misplayed this game. All right. Let me get Breya. Assume they play their commander here? It's hard to say. I don't know what they tutored for. I'm probably just dead. Maybe not. Did they go get that? Weird. Alright, let's just charge this and yield and then get Breya down. They didn't attack. My opponent is just like awful. So I can twist away their hand. Motion 4, 5, 6. If I twist away their hand and play Breya, but if they send in, I would have to pay life. I might actually need to protect my life total here. Well, I do. But the question is, what is the best way to do it, right? So is it this way? Or is it with a mind twist? And I think it's probably this way, actually. Okay, so they go for their commander. Commander sticks. Now I have to avoid the 3 life thing. But here's the thing. If they pop a bunch of creatures back into their hand, then I get to mind twist it. Okay. I think I managed to lose this game. Or, yeah, I was pretty much managing to lose this game. And now I think I've got a way forward. I've got a bounce on this twist. I've got extra life here available. There's a couple different options going on here. Kind of want to dig for... hitting a land there was really nice because I don't have to bother playing Crucible just yet. So I want to dig for a... Okay, there we go. Yeah, disenchant effect is very nice. I'll just be patient. So I can play Cryptic and a disenchant, or I can just disenchant and a... okay, Aethros should come on. Cool. Shadowborn Apostle. Cool. So I can triple block, shrink the Aethros, kill the Remembrance. Okay. So let's kill the Remembrance. No, I've got to kill the Aethros first, or else it'll stop being a creature. And I have to go get like a Badlands here. Alright, they can search your library for a copy of it. Obviously, that's silly and irrelevant. So I suppose they can't sack the Shadowborn Apollo. There we go. Okay, good. Next is disenchant this guy, and they scoop. Cool. This dies. I take 0 damage. I charge. Opponent's not going to be able to get their commander. They don't have any recursion going, and yeah. Well, that was an incredibly, incredibly stupidly played game. I apologize. You should see better playing than that if you're going to watch games on my channel, frankly. But it did work out in the end, I suppose. It was pretty horrible, though. That was just bad. So, I mean, you could say the fact that I played poorly would have been easily disguised had I drawn a land within those, what was it, 5+ cards there. You wouldn't have noticed. But because I didn't, um, because I didn't, then my bad play was revealed, right? Otherwise, I would have just kind of, because what I did was I made an assumption that I would find land, and then I played based on that assumption. And the line I took was kind of loose. If I would have played tight, assuming that, wanting to draw land, but assuming I may not, then, and protecting myself, my life total, by keeping their commander off the board, then there's really no threat. And then, of course, the Toxic Deluge turn, where my opponent, I deluged, but they picked up 4 more of those creatures. Well, they wouldn't have cost me 3 life per creature, because I would have kept their commander off the board. So I could have just swept their board, and they would have had no recovery, and then that would have been it. So very, very poor play there. But, you know, my opponent's poor play was even worse than mine. Not attacking for 2 and then 3 and then 2 again. If you add it up, I think I would have been dead that game. I think if my play had been correct and their play had been correct, then I would have won. But if after they messed up and I messed up, um, but because they messed up to start with by not attacking for a couple of turns in the beginning, life total doesn't matter. It allowed me to win the game. So I don't know what they were thinking there, but whatever it was not the way. All right, so I'm playing as Man Bear Pig, running Joda Archmage Eternal. It does allow them to play all 5 colors. It doesn't look particularly great. If this card is the kind of thing where they need all 5 colors because this card just assumes that they will how do I want to run this out? Well, I think I'm going to run out this way. They need all 5 colors, and then they're going to play a bunch of unfair stuff from their hand. Then that means they must get their commander, and it's got to stick, and they have to untap, and then they've got to use them. And then I probably lose. But getting to that point is a pretty tall order. So I went this route for turn 1 rather than doing the tithe, because if I naturally draw a blue source, I can go with a Jace here immediately. It's a little risky because if I go on the tithe play and my opponent has a strip mine here, then I still get to tithe. But the payout is quite high. All right, so I didn't get what I was looking for there, but at least I've got a brought back, which is always like kind of a nice thing to have. There's a few tricks we can do with that down the road. So I think don't want to get all my colors. Well, first of all, I want 2 blue, and then that means I need to get black. So, and I'll signal. This tells them that they can safely play a permanent, and I can't do anything about it, right? So that's what this is trying to talk them into playing a permanent, so I can immediately Teferi. Because a turn where your opponent taps out for their 1 permanent and you tap out and remove it with Teferi is a big tempo swing. Alternately, my opponent might play something that I bounce with Jace, and the other route is I could go land Gilded Lotus with a Forbid ready to go. So there's a lot of strong options here. Another slow land comes into play. All right, so because my opponent didn't... Well, I suppose I could go Spellseeker as well, but Lotus is the best play here, because if it doesn't stick, it doesn't... If they, let's say they negate it, Okay, yeah, so we're good. So I think I could play Spellseeker here, and do something like go get a Spellseeker and go get a Mind Twist. But I think I can wait a turn, and I can always Spellseeker into Mind Twist and then twist them for 4. But this way I have a Forbid ready to go. So alternately, like I can Spellseeker, go get Mind Twist if they don't make me use a Forbid, and then there's just a lot more options here, and having this Forbid Protected Lotus or brought back Protected Lotus is pretty strong. My opponent has like Mass Artifact Kill. I can keep my Lotus and my Soul Ring off the brought back and save the counterspell for the next turn. So, so this lets him get a card immediately. I can Narset this down, then twist him for 4, and that's pretty good. If I top deck a land, I actually twist him for 5 here. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and do this because I can mind twist our whole hand away if I draw a land. Excuse me. But if I let him hit the Narset, then I can't because they'll actually have 1 extra card in their hand. Boom. There it is. So go ahead and get the Volcanic. Do it this way. Would you mind terribly if you put your whole hand in the bucket? Do you mind getting dump trucked? So this should be death. This should be a win right here. I think my opponent scoops, unless they've got Force of Will, the other Force of Will, or Misdirection. That would be the worst. This game's over. No good game. Alright, so they want to play it out, and I'm fine with that. Now I've got Spellseeker with Jitte threatening them, and of course they have no idea what else is going on over here. The neat thing is I go Spellseeker, equip the Jitte, attack with Spellseeker. My opponent certainly would can't really block because it's a 4/3, and then I can Jitte it down. But if they were, then I'd brought back, and then the other problem is if they well, there's a lot of problems here for my opponent. I think it's pretty obvious, but brought back on Spellseeker is really a sick play, by the way. Because I can Jitte the Spellseeker down. Let's see if we can find like one more thing to sack. No. So do I want to bother with that play, or do I want to bother with like Teferi, Jace shenanigans? Probably more something along those lines. And then they can't kill, and then use brought back as a counterspell to protect. So I think with that in mind, we'll just go 1, 2, 3, 4. I can also Jace the Spellseeker and replay it, but this is just fine. So this will let me have brought back ready to go. If my opponent has some kind of removal that I haven't anticipated, well, I just get my stuff back. And of course, I've got the disenchant as well. Well, I drew a tutor, but I've got the disenchant as well here. So if my opponent plays something that I don't want, well, that's also an option. So it's always good when you can win without, like, I'm beating my opponent and their commander. I haven't even deployed mine. So sure. Now, if nothing too exciting goes on, I just probably DT and Mind Twist him again. Or, let's see. So they're going to play a land. Yeah, they're going to play a land, I assume. So do I want to sword them or Mind Twist them? It's just their commander. I'm not that worried about it. I suppose the other option is that I just go get Actually, the correct choice is I go get Winter Orb here. So, oh, nice, see. I'd rather have Serum Visions here than just a land, probably. But all right, don't need this, and probably don't need Teachings. Oh no, I don't need Disenchant. Um, I don't really want to orb them. Yeah, I do. I've got Teferi running. What am I thinking? I definitely want to orb them. So if I'm going to do that, let's do it this way. Let's take a look first and see what my might be hiding up there. It's very cheap. Oh wow, it's one of the cards I was talking about possibly wanting, and I could have DT'd for Tezzeret right here. So that's just funny. All right, so if I'm gonna do the sword, then I want to do this. Yeah. So we'll do this. We'll do this. Okay. Make sure this sticks. Looks good. Do I want to attach a Jitte? How do I want to do this? I can float mana and then mystical during combat. Yeah, okay, whatever. Money gives up. That'll work. So was Serum Visions better than a land there? Ever so slightly. Got me the sword. Anyway, told me to impulse. Grab the sword, and it actually found Tezzeret. So yeah, I guess it was quite a bit better, as a matter of fact. At least in that game. Got a disenchant. Got fast mana. These are the two things that I want when I look at an opening hand. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. Also, Horde of Notions getting Treachery looks pretty yummy at some point. So I might have been better off leading with the fetch land. In an environment with more wasteland effects, I'd lead with the fetch land just to ensure that I could get my second mana down. And then once I got my second mana down for my talisman, if they want to wasteland me, it's fine. But all right, so this is going to have to be white producing. We can get color number 3, or color number 4 rather. So I can go talisman seal, or I can go talisman copy. Oh. Or I can go Breya, and then build up my mana base in a little while. And I think I like that. And get a second white just for resiliency. All right, so black, white, blue, red against strip effects. So right now Will potentially gets me a seal and a disenchant effect and a fetch land. That's one of the nice things about seals, that if I do use a seal at some point here, kill whatever, and then I will, and there's nothing to kill, I can still replay the seal, unlike the actual disenchant card. All right, Breya goes away, distracting from the talisman, because my opponent can't afford to take that kind of a beating. So I can run out Coalition Copy, or I can go Talisman Coalition. Copy's very flexible, but double Coalition Relic's really strong. I think, however, the flexibility of Coalition Relic here and the ability to play the Coalition Relic and charge it this turn, for both of those reasons, I think I'd rather do it this route. All right, cool. Nothing awful happening over there. They do have double blue, so I need to respect that. Okay, there we go. All right, so 3 and 1. We'll go ahead and run this guy out. Double relic, so good. All right, so in the interest of respecting double white over there, I don't want to get in a fight where I play my commander and then my opponent mana drains and then I have to remand my own commander, or remand a mana drain would be the worst play ever. So I'm just going to do this. It sets things up real nicely here. If my opponent goes like land, Vandal Blast, I can remand it and it gives me another turn and a couple of cards to hopefully find a solution. But if they do what I want them to do, which is play their commander, then I get to play and just snag it off a treachery. Okay, take a small beating here. Alternately, I could just run out my commander and kill it most likely, but treachery is just what we want to be doing. I may be able to do both and force such a heavy swing of the game in my favor that my opponent just gives up here. So we'll see. All right, give me all that blue. So blue, blue. Am I going to will this turn? I'm not. So am I going to play my commander this turn? I think I actually am. So we'll go this route. Boom, boom. So black, white, blue. Let's get those all green. Okay. I suppose I should tap that for red, if we're being perfectly honest here. But it'll work. And this thing has haste, so I actually get to smash in right now. It's games like this where you just wonder how people build their decks, because it's like, my opponent's made 2 plays in the entire course of this game, and I mean, I'm just constantly doing something, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 plays, multiple fetches to make decisions there, charge or not charge. It's just kind of interesting. So I may play an elemental from my graveyard. So you'd think that my opponent would have let off by putting elementals into their graveyard, you know? So so I let this happen. Then they replay their Horde of Nations, and then I will treachery it. I think that's how this goes. I could gain 5 life, though. One less mana next turn, but I actually don't have a lot to do with it. I can replay my commander. There really isn't a lot here. Let's see what I draw first, of course. Well, that helps. But I have so much mana, it's just... we'll run it down this way. Of course, this thing's kind of doomed if their commander hits. I'd really like to play an extra land here. I can keep them off their commander for a turn. I think I'm going to go this route. What I want to do is remand their commander here, which will try to kill Jace, right? I want to get the will into my hand before I factor fiction. And then I want to charge. I'm not gonna. Don't want to charge. No, I'll factor fiction. It's more mana efficient because I can spend 4 mana rather than pumping myself up by 2. So I'll factor fiction. Yeah. So there we go. We want to. Oops. So remand that back to hand. So the Jace lives one more turn. I've got the Will in my hand again, and then rather than charging an extra 2 mana next turn, I'll burn 4 mana this turn. I'm much better off that way. This will dig me past the crap. I remember I put at least one of those cards back, right? So I knew there was a card I didn't want, and that gives me a couple of others. 7, I'm behind on land count, so I can actually tithe and do, yeah, I'll definitely take that. Thank you. So tithe represents a shuffle here, so I'm going to go ahead and Jace and then shuffle and wasteland my opponent. Okay, that's incredibly good. I'll go ahead and dump this, and do I need a disenchant right now? Or do I just want Grim to set up for an even bigger Will? I probably can just go that route. Alright, so I'll wasteland my opponent. Still going to play... I'm going to get this guy down. Alright, so Swords to Plowshares means that if they run out their commander, I just take it off the board, right? Away. 1, 2. Let's get the Grim down. We'll use the Grim to play the sword, and we'll get the sword equipped. And then I've got Tithe or Swords. I've got a seal over here, so that's why I didn't need the disenchant. And of course, they're not representing much when it comes to their artifacts and enchantments. So if I can plow the commander here, Jace lives for another turn, and I mean, it's just ridiculous, right? And I get to double charge the relics. I'll will next turn for sure off of a sword hit where I'm getting double mana. It's totally insane. Okay, well, in that case, I won't get double mana. Goodbye. And instead I'll get a shuffle and a 2-for-1. I could have sealed that and then kept it in the graveyard for the will turn. That may have been really clever and something I should have thought about perhaps a little bit harder. However, I am not certain that that's even the play I want to make on this turn. I want to will on a turn where I can replay Treachery and get just absurd amounts of mana. So I'm going to wait. And instead, I'm going to shuffle these cards right back in. Ponder past them, I think. Or do I want to Misty Ponder? If I'm going to replay land, yeah, no, I'll play the Misty first, and then we'll Ponder, and then that way I get to look at new cards with the Ponder. Alright, Counterspell, very nice to have here. Go ahead and get the Urza down. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I play my commander here and it sticks, I'm way better off in terms of mana, and I'm almost 100% that it's going to stick. But I'm not 100% that it's going to stick. I'm almost 100%. And I'll be even better off if I don't do that. So if it sticks, then I can tap those guys for mana. I can easily cast Counterspell. But if I don't do that, what I can do is I can untap Grim Monolith, charge, and plow the commander. And I think that's a win right there. I also have the Construct for mana as well. So yeah, it's all about just setting up the turn where they finally slam their commander into Jace to get rid of it. Don't you want to do that? It's amazing that they've been targeting other things with their removal than Jace, because you can't beat Jace, inactive Jace, most of the time, right? Pro white, pro black, and it grows. It's not pro Jace though, so I'll just bounce it if it does anything significant this game, which I don't expect it to do. Can't Swords to Plowshares that thing. So yeah. Untap this first. Now I can tap it for blue if I had to, and the construct to cast counterspell. So it's safe to charge, Swords to Plowshares if I needed to, still cast counter. Cool. Alright. Well, I'm going to stop hitting you with Stoneforge Mystic. That's nice. Isn't that lovely? I can just kill it with Umezawa's Jite here if I just bounce Stoneforge. So I think that's the play. Let's just Jite that thing off the board. Yeah, it's fine. Boop. Yes, I got enough blue. I suppose I can just do this. And Umezawa's Jite, of course, produces blue mana. Go ahead and snag that guy. Choose this card. Thank you. I'm not sure what's going on. I seem to be lagging a bit. I'll go ahead and get this down and then use Trinket to, I'm probably going to need this mana this turn. To play a Soul Ring. The Soul Ring will get played off of this. And then with the extra mana, I'll go ahead and equip Umezawa's Jite on this guy. That's fine. I probably could have played Breya there actually, but this will be okay. Make that go away. And I think I will play Breya actually. So order, well, it's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 2, 3. I've got tons of mana. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I'll grab an extra blue there. And then of course that's just 3 mana I put back into play. So I will untap the Grim Monolith at the end of the turn here. Not quite sure why my opponent's still playing, to be honest. There we go. Good game. Yeah. Okay. Moving on. Certainly a game I would not have wanted Vandal Blast. I would have preferred to have drawn Karn, for example. It's weird. Vandal Blast is a card that it feels like kind of a crutch card, or I don't know. It feels like a card that you shouldn't need, but it has a couple of things going for it. It's of course it kills untargetable things, which is occasionally useful, but that is pretty niche. It kills that turn 1 Soul Ring though, and that's real important. And then Vandal Blast it occasionally blows out a game, but it's been a long time since it's blown out a game. You know, the other thought that I had was, I guess it's whether or not how good is Brockback? Maybe is Brockback worse than Karn? Is this somebody just screaming that, and then maybe I do something like this, and I take out, let's say I take out maybe I want to double up on the artifact removal, so I either take this out, or maybe I take out the Serum Visions. Although I've liked it so far. Do something along these lines, like maybe pull the VB or pull the, like I said, pull the Serum. So it's a way to go. really go hard on the Soul Ring killing in the early game, but potentially have problems with mulligans. Um, I don't know. I don't think I like that much. The thing about brought back is that well, first of all, serum is just less mulligans, right? I am land light. But the thing about brought back is that it is kind of like in that one game, it felt like I was holding essentially a counterspell, but it also, like I said, if my opponent tried to play removal, but it also has this funky interaction with planeswalkers where you can ultimate them to kill them. Like, for example, you shrink to fairy and then you plus him up a couple times and then you shrink him and he dies, and then you brought him back at full and use him immediately, and it's crazy. I've done that. You typically see it with Dak Fade, and you steal something, you plus him up, you steal something, you bring him back, you steal something. The game is way, way, way over. Like, here's a brought back hand, possibly. But if you brought back 2 fetches, it's a Soul Ring worth of value at instant speed for 2 white. And of course, brought back in the face of an early Wasteland or Strip Mine could be an insane blowout. The play would look something like I go this and then I play a fetch land, my opponent has a Wasteland and they activate Wasteland end of turn or something, and then I brought back both lands and just win. Black. Okay, so next turn, something like land talisman to ready is what I'm thinking, but I might want to set up with a block first off my commander. Nope, it's going to be deck. Surveil 1 and copy a creature. Yeah, that card's garbage. I mean, I don't know. My opponent could loot her into something, but it's basically garbage. All right, so I'm going to go get a volcanic here and sneak out talisman into Dak into Signet. Soul Ring worth of value. -1 for you, +1 for me is the same as +2 for me and mathematically at least, and just totally ridiculous. Okay, so he's gonna die, but he's totally done his job now. I've still got force up if I need to. But it has less mana to activate Lazav. And really isn't getting much going here at all. But if you look at my opponent's mana base and what they're doing, it's pretty clear that this is not a high caliber deck, right? It's not a competitive deck, unfortunately. Unfortunately. All right, so I do want to get this off the table. I want to get the looter off the table. Different ways to do that. I think the easiest way is just to play Doretti and then Commander, or Commander and then Doretti. Opponent probably tries to stop my Commander first if they have something to deal with it. This gives me exactly enough mana to hardcast Force of Negation if I want to. Okay, they don't have anything, so go grab a Tundra. And then let's get Doretti. Oops, miscalculated there. Actually, I'll just sit on a Force of Negation then. Or perhaps, do I want to just take out Looter? It's so good. Eventually. I want to sit on a Force of Negation. I really don't want to force with the Mystical Teachings. This is fine. That was a bad fetch, though. I mean, it just wasn't. I just didn't think it through. I mean, I could have talismaned into this and then saved the black and then made the play that I was going to make, which was the Doretti here. I think this might actually work out. So killing a creature does make me want to. Yeah, I do want to 2-for-1 my opponent at this point. All right, let's take that out. So you can get up to a 4-drop here for their Lazav, otherwise copy a Morphocolluder. Oh wow, what happens if you copy that? Interesting, so it's a pure combo deck with the option of just winning. That sucks. So if they play like, I absolutely despise Necrotic because it's such a dumb, easy way to win. So if you play like a Buried Alive, you can just kill me with Necrotic Ooze. But if not, well, alright, we'll make that mistake again. Can hard counter a counter here if I need to. I'll go ahead and get in my 1 point of damage. It's interesting about the readies you target, but you don't sacrifice until the resolution, not on the cost. So if your opponent like does something like sacrifices their creature in order to do something, then you can actually choose not to pay the cost, and you don't. I mean, you can choose not to pay the not to resolve the sacrifice effect, which is extremely strange. In this case, of course, I will. So I really want to just go get Necropotence here. Opponent really can't do too much. If they play Lazav, they're not doing so great. I'm going to play this so that I'm taking less damage from like Mana Confluence, for example. Go get Necro, sit on Force. It doesn't matter if I lose 2 for 1 myself on the Force with Teachings because I'm going to get Necropotence. And this is the problem with Necropotence. Like, I really think the card shouldn't be in this format at all. Like, I don't understand the idea of putting, hey, we're going to 30 life and Necropotence. It's 30 life or Necropotence, but I'm not going to not play it. Anyway, and it's because of this. It doesn't matter. If I force with this, I'm throwing away 2 cards plus a 3rd card, all to stop 1 card. So I've Ancestral Recalled my opponent in terms of card advantage, and it completely trivializes that because of Necropotence. Like, oh, I'll just Ancestral you and casually destroy you in card advantage anyway. Of course, if that doesn't happen, well, then this. All right, so black. I'm going to use this one while I can without paying life in case my opponent had some way to get rid of that. 1, 2, 3, I think should do. And I'm 1 short of playing my commander here and then sacking a token, so alright. But they do have a counter. Great. And I'll just negate that. Plop that down. Kill this guy, the one that hurts me, or the one that's there so they can't bounce it back to their hand. And that should do it. Yep, that should do it. We'll waste this thing and leave them with this in the off position until they are able to get another land drop. Is kind of what I'm thinking. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2. I mean, I can just kill this thing. It's yeah. Go ahead. Put Cheryl's off right back in the graveyard. I'm fine with that. Here's where I wish I had brought back right here. I'd go Wasteland, activate Duretti, kill a thing, kill a Duretti. Brought back, take probably the Duretti and the thing that I killed. Wish I had the card right now. I could wish for it. Oh, speaking of wishing I had the card. Yeah, actually I could. That's really interesting. Why did I do that? Yeah. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's just go do that. I mean, I could Swords a thing, but I like this play a little bit better. So I'm just going to kill that, play this, take this out, brought back the Duretti and the Wasteland. I'm coming to play tap, but I can still make a token. And then I'll just grab a couple more cards. Yeah, I like that quite a bit. That was a good turn. I don't think that was a silly turn either. I'll wasteland that temple in a second. Yeah. Good game. A fresh Duretti on 4 seems pretty hard for my opponent to deal with. This silly thing that they're trying to do. Cool. Glad I didn't force with the teachings. Now that I think about it. I suppose I could have got the artifact instead of the wasteland. I didn't have to do the wasteland thing. I could have just, or I could have got both mana sources. But no, I like that. I like getting the Duretti back. I like getting the disruption, double disruption. I mean, brought back basically, what was it there? It was a wasteland and a Duretti on 4. So white, put a Duretti on 4 into play, a token, and a wasteland. Pretty good card for 2 white. It just requires a little setup. It seems like the card comes on board in situations that, so for situational cards like that, it's a question of how often does the situation arise, and it seems like the card comes on board for situations that that will happen, but I don't know. We'll see. Incidentally, Vandal Blast is very situational as well, but a little bit better when that artifact that I mentioned earlier actually comes out, because once that artifact comes out, you're going to have Soul Ring and that artifact showing up all over the place, and people should be playing, like, what they should be playing is this right here. They should also probably be playing this guy in almost every deck. Certainly this thing should show up a lot. But the basics are these right here. And then also I would suggest that there probably should be running this, Crucible of Worlds, and anything beyond that is kind of deck dependent. Maybe Grim Monolith. It's an extremely hard card to pull from any deck. It's just it's unfair what it does. So I would say there's going to be 6 to 7 targets. There's going to be that new artifact will show up most of the time, not in mono green. I suppose you wouldn't play Grim Monolith in mono green, but you would play these in mono green. You'd play these even in a deck with mana elves and stuff, or you should. So these are your 5 like must play artifacts in the format, I would suspect. And that gives me a few targets for Vandal Blast. And then the new card for any deck that's 2 colors. So there'll be at least 5 or 6 cards that I can target. But they're extremely important cards to kill. So I mean, Mana Crypt, Soul Ring, Mox Time and Mana Bolt, Crucible. These are things that we don't want to stick. We don't want these in play on our opponent's side at all, especially in a Winter Orb deck. So hopefully I get a game here. The problem is, so I'm going to bring these cards back out. The problem is, incidentally, when it comes to these cards, is that the opponent, for the most part, cannot take advantage of the strongest land in the format, which is Workshop, with just those 5 cards. Like, not reliably. It's not going to do enough for you. So this is a very, very weak keep. And I'm going to keep it, but it's very weak. My opponent's 5 colors and I have a Wasteland, but there's not a lot going for this hand. The biggest problem with this hand is that I have no Disenchant and I have no fast mana, and if you don't have one of the two, it's not good. But anyway, with those 5 cards that I just pointed out, you can't take advantage of the best land in the format, which is Mishra's Workshop. So that was kind of like wanting to use Workshop And realizing that those lands allow you to, I might just clamp this thing. Getting cards right now might be better than getting cards later, a lot later. I actually think that's correct. The other card that you always want to play if you can is Skull Clamp. It would be in the 5, except there's decks that don't have creatures, like a pure blue counter deck, and so there's a case where you don't want Skull Clamp, but if you can play Skull Clamp, you want to play Skull Clamp. So if I fabricate here, I've got a great setup for Tezzeret next turn, so I'll go ahead and do that. Do I want Crypt or do I want Soul Ring? I want Mana Crypt. And the reason is that next turn I can go Crypt, Tezzeret, Wasteland, not necessarily in that order. I could also do something like, if my opponent surprised me and was sandbagging a bunch of artifacts and dumped them here, I could go Crypt, Wasteland, Vandal Blast, but that's probably not going to be useful. What colors do I fear the most over there? Well, green gets more mana, I see. So green is the color I want to attack the most. The other option, though, is I can go land Breya, kill this thing. Actually like that quite a bit. I'm going to go and run out to Crypt here prior to casting. Well, no, there's no, my opponent doesn't even have an island. They can't even cast daze, so it doesn't matter. But if they had an island, I'd play the Crypt first so that they couldn't effectively daze it on the way down. Then I'd play the commander. They couldn't effectively daze it. And if they tried, I'd just spend one to allow it to resolve and clamp and draw some cards. So but they don't have an island for that. I'm still going to run it out this way, but all right. All right, so let's get rid of that thing. The question is, do I want to do Breya or do I want to do a Thopter so I can draw extra cards? And I think I want to sack this way. So that way I can draw 2 cards next turn off the Thopter. Gives me something to do with my mana, other than forcing me down the Tezzeret line, because I have a triple blue now for Cryptic. So I could also possibly bounce something. Bounce with me, bounce with me. What does they kill? Crypt or Clamp? What do they kill? If they kill Thopter, then I'm just gonna facepalm, but the correct answer is probably Crypt, actually. I've got 5 cards in hand. I don't need more cards. I need mana to get the cards in my hand onto the table. But my opponent chose incorrectly, I believe. So I can kill that. I want to kill this, though. That's a huge threat to me. So as badly as I want to wasteland my opponent, I'm going to have to kill that thing. And the easiest way to do it here is just to kill it, as well as, notice I've had to kill a couple of different creatures who have low toughness. So let's do it this way. And then I also appreciate the irony of an artifact creature carrying an artifact killing a harmonic sliver. It's just kind of sweet justice. I think I can die right now. I don't want to play with that. I don't want to play with something like, say, my opponent going Crows and Grip on your Jite, and then I go, uh-oh. If you're going to, generally speaking, you hold instance till the end of your opponent's turn or until the last possible moment. But if you're going to make a play, if there's a play that you are going to make no matter what, you make that play immediately before your opponent has an opportunity to mess with it. Even though it gives them information, it's still the correct thing to do. All right, so now my opponent gets wrecked by Mind Twist. They've waited too long. All right, so 6 cards, so 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm 1 short, so I can go get a opal. But if I want to strip mine them this turn, then I need to go get a soul ring. So I'll go do that. And of course I want to strip mine them this turn. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Mana to get 6 cards. Go ahead and smoke their hand. Kill their creature or their land. God, they had a Jitte. Oh, no, they had a, what was it, Skull Clamp? Didn't get it on the board. That's interesting. Go ahead and kill their sliver. I should be getting a good game here. Or just a scoop. No block. I'd pump the Jitte. By not blocking, I have to remove 2 counters. But yeah, there's no beating that. GG. I guess not. But I'll take it. Bad game. Bad nasty game. Yeah, anyway, so I was talking earlier about the best land in the format. So I think, I mean, this has to be it. And this is a close second in a lot of ways. So if you look at these 2 naughty cards here, they very much want you to be playing with artifacts and lots of them and typically higher cost ones. If you look at the deck, it's designed with that in mind. Of course, I get to take advantage of Breya with Workshop, but that's really not if Breya were not an artifact creature, nothing would change. I would have the same build. I mean, I suppose something would change, but in terms of would that influence my decision about how good Workshop is? Well, of course not. Card's ridiculous. So you want to maximize opportunities to take advantage of that. Adding in more artifact mana down the road is going to just make it even stronger. And this one does what? Beginning of your upkeep, you hand it back and forth. So I can easily beat my opponent's head in with this thing for insane amounts of damage. They hit me for 5, and then I swing back, naming birds, I think it's Thopters, and hit them for 8 in the air plus 9 on the ground, 17 points of damage, sacking the 2 flyers and dealing 20. So that's just a horrifically bad card, but you know, I'll take it. All right, so what is this? Opponent's going to get extra green mana. All right, well, it's not the White Chancellor. This is actually a nice effect. Fortunately, I do have the counterspell. I have Copy Artifact. I've got something to do with mana. I've got Vandal Blast. This just is a nice, really good defensive hand. And my opponent goes like, say, land Dark Confidant or something, then that's not so good. But there's only a tiny handful of threats that cost 2 that this hand can't deal with. So that's pretty good. And it looks like they've got green mana and nothing to do with it. That's just card's so garbage. Outside of combo, I don't know. Maybe they're going to play like Llanowar Elf, Birds of Paradise, something like that. Am I getting called or texted? Seems as though I'm getting texted quite a bit, so I'm going to kind of check this while my opponent AFKs or whatever they're doing over there. Okay, there we go. Yeah, that's bad situation for them, clearly. Good for me. I've got top and a fetch. They didn't have anything to do with 2 mana last turn, so if they don't have anything to do with 2 mana this turn, then I'm going to get a peek, sack, look again, find another mana source so I can get down Trinket into Crypt. Crypt will let me look again, and then I set up for Mind Twist. What are these? Was it? Okay, so we're going to go, looks like it looks like we're going to go, my family's going to go have sushi soon. So I'm going to have to call it in a little bit, but I've got a bit of time, and of course I was talking, totally distracted, did not activate Sensei's Divining Top. That was a huge screw up there. I could have activated it in order to try to hit a land, and if I hit a blue, then it works out okay. But that's just bad. Oh man, I can't believe I just did that. That was, oops, sorry about that, folks. Anyway, I'll be all right. Another interesting thing I could have done though is, I can copy artifact the Sensei's Divining Top. It's always an interesting play because then you can use your copy artifact as a top for a little while and then turn it back into a copy artifact by drawing and putting the card on top of your library. And with 2 tops, you draw and put it on top of your library, then you activate the other top, put the copy back in your hand as a copy, and then copy whatever you want to copy. And if you're doing something like that on, say, a Gilded Lotus or whatever, then pretty good things are happening. All right, so let's take a peek. I guess it looks like I wanted to sit on a counterspell at the end of my opponent's turn, I suppose. Is this how they read that? This is actually fine. I don't need to do anything with this. Okay, I'm right back at it. I'm right back into it. I've got more mana than my opponent. And then next turn I can go Cavern Trinket and go get a Crypt. So, yeah, that's good shape. Okay, we don't want that. Oracle, I don't want. I do want some mana. Am I willing to shuffle away top? Yes. So do I want Cavern of Souls, or do I just want regular mana? I'll take the fetch, actually. So we'll do this. I could have done the peak. I could have gone for a second look there. I could have activated top and then responded by using this, and then I would have actually got a look at the top there. But I figured I'd rather just play around days. It's too important to counter that right now, and all right, Soul Ring here will actually be better for me. Volcanic, get down a ring. This costs exactly 0 mana. And then run into this and then pass. So it wasn't exactly a mana drain you turn, but it was a turn where my opponent tapped out, which allowed me to, turbo ahead on mana. So it feels very similar to that effect where you drain and then have an explosive turn. And now I get to follow up with this kind of nasty twist sword hand. Okay, so my opponent's going to draw cards at sorcery speed into a Mind Twist, which is beautiful. Beautiful thing. And they still are missing like 2 colors of mana over there. So I can just take blue. So we'll get this equipped. That's 1 less mana I need to spend on the twist. and it's freebie pre-combat anyway. Do I have enough mana to play my commander? Black 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. I'm actually one short. Because this, yeah, I'm one short here because I decided to play the Wayfarer. That's okay though. I'd rather have the Wayfarer actually. My opponent's two colors off from Corona, and so having a Wayfarer that I can activate to waste and strip mine them is more important than I think having a Breya to pressure them, since I'll be swinging with a equipped, sorted up Trinket Mage anyway. My Corona. Do, 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 do. Um, pretty good with a lime. All right, so opponent's going to untap. I'm going to take their cards away. No, I do have it. No, I do. I'm one short. So close. So I don't need to take extra damage. Since I'm coming up short on the mana there. All right. If I really wanted to, I could move the sword over here against as a hedge against like a hasted green creature. But then I'd have to move it back over here because I want to activate Wayfarer, so not any good. All right, scoop phase, scoop. So funny. Opponent has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. And I've got 11 plus sword, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 mana. I'm not counting what the Wayfarer will fetch. So up to -1/+2 because I play the land and then use it. So really like 17 mana next turn, unless it's a workshop, and then it becomes 20 something. So they're way behind on mana is what it comes down to. Way behind on cards. I only have the one card in hand, but with just these two cards, they're considering the game over because their commander is stuck in the command zone and mine isn't, and that's the main thing. The the goal of this deck is basically to do what you see, where we're pressuring the opponent's resources and preventing them from playing. But the reasons for that are multiple. In the commander format, if you can't attack your opponent's resources, it's very difficult to keep commanders out of play. And there are commanders that are in and of themselves are going to win games. You've got to keep them out of play. And at one time in the past, distant past these days, there used to be the tuck rule. You could put a commander into somebody's library and they couldn't choose to put it in the command zone. Okay, so this is going to go on the bottom. This is going to go on the top. I actually could have kept that opal off of the strength of the Grim, but I don't really want to go Grim into Lantern. What I want to do is I want to go Grim into Mind Twist. But I could have gone Grim, Lantern, Opal, and had a mana leak up. It's not bad at all. So now I have an even better Grim play, which is Grim into Tezzeret, untap the Grim, tap for extra mana. This card's just crazy. Alright, so they got a Sapphire Medallion. Oh, lovely. Let's do that. Okay, so this into this. 3, 4, 5, 6. I could dump truck for almost their whole hand, but it's not a dump truck if you don't hit the whole hand. I'm going to actually do this instead, and then I can go get Opal and set up that way, or I can untap, tap, sit on a counter. Yeah, I like this better. So here's what I'm doing. So now I've got Mana Leak up with a Grim untapped. So my opponent actually can't Mana Leak back. Oh wow, they're going to really regret that for any number of reasons. Expedition Map, Vindicate. All right, but this sets me up for this turn where I can do a gigantic Mind Twist from a very comfortable spot. All right, so 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. Oops. All right, so 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. With a mana leak to back it up. Boom. Good game. Thank you for playing. What was my opponent? Yeah, their deck. Too slow. Too slow. Anyway, I think I was making a point that was a good point, and I completely lost track of what it was. But what was the point I was trying to make? I don't know. Oh well. Oh well. Grim Monolith, obviously, like when I said probably Grim Monolith, and I moved it over in the artifacts that go together as must plays. That was a good game though, showcasing why. But what ends up happening is you look at the must plays and then so the deck kind of like pushes itself, it kind of crafts itself. You say these are must plays, and these are extraordinarily compelling cards like Mishra's Workshop. And then GL and HF. There you go. And when you look at those cards, then you say, well, what supports them? And so you get a deck that slowly fuses itself together. Opponent mulligans to 5. That is very recoverable if you have the right 5 cards. And it could end up hurting my play. If my opponent doesn't keep 2 lands, let's say they keep a land, Soul Ring, and other stuff, Mana Elves or something, I might go Wayfarer and then not be able to use it. Their mulligans increase the chance that my Wayfarer lives. It doesn't get bolted here. But it decreases the chance that they're going to play a land so that I can capitalize on it, which would be bad. I definitely need to get some mana out here. So the question is, how do I want to do this? Do I want to go get Workshop, or do I want to go get a fetch land for the Crucible? Do I want to go get Strip Mine and Wasteland? I kind of want to do that. A good game, he says. Sure. The Wayfarer killed you? Sure. All right. That was an interesting one in terms of sequencing. If they had bolted the Wayfarer, then I would have had to, I don't know how I would have ran it. I mean, I would have had to play the top, get the Opal down at some point. Was very close to being able to get that third artifact into play. So this is nice. I've got a Force of Negation and Serum Visions. Again, showing up not as a land, but rather as a dig me card. I'm starting to dig this card, honestly. All right, so let's go get a Tundra. I can get Tundra there. I can get Scrub there. So Joe Cryptic. It's way too early for this. And if I just want to hit land drops, I take this, and this is fine, I think. I got to be careful about yielding with a Leyline of Anticipation out. My opponent's mana base is pretty sketch. But they're also playing Leyline of Anticipation. That's all sketchy. Okay, play the card I put on top. This card, unless there's some combo I don't know about this card, it's just, you just mulliganed. All right. So I think what I'll do is I might just go get. I'm tempted to get a mana drain here actually. I think that's correct. So if I get a mana drain and I drain for Tezzeret, then I'm in great shape. So let's do it. Yeah. Opponent can play cards on my turn and on their turn, so that means they're going to have a turn where they're going to be able to push a threat at the end of my turn and then go on their turn with something else. And if it's something I can force, then great. But what that indicates, though, is that they go on my turn, then they go on their turn, right? And then they're tapped out. And so if I can mana drain half of that and then leave them tapped out to make their play, then my follow-up I can use the mana drain mana on and probably respond to their play. For example, by getting Tezzeret or something along those lines. That was really nice right there. That undoes the mulligan from the Mystical Tutor. All right, so I want, this will be blue black. I'm going to go ahead and just go fetch with it now. And then tithe. If they hadn't played an extra land there, I would have tithed and did the fetch. I would have done the fetch and then tithe and response trick. But since they did, I'd rather have an extra blue out for counter magic. Being able to hit my land drops against another blue deck is very important, of course. Can I actually try to counter this? Are you going to feed me mana? I just got Tezzeret. I mean, I just got Mana Drain. Are you really going to feed me mana here? This is not. This leyline is encouraging my opponent to play as an instant here. That's just silly. Yeah, I have, of course, going to Mana Drain that. And then Force of Negation's backing it up, so yeah. Like 4 free mana now ends the game, right? So we'll go get Hallowed Fountain. We'll get the third black for Necropotence. I might have got an extra red if I thought that I needed to back up the red mana, if I thought that it could be under threat. But, well, there you go. Okay, this game's super over. Blue, this guy. And I even have 1 mana floating, so I can even cast a Cryptic Command here. Not that I'm going to need to. Game over. Okay. That was absurd. Why would you cast into a mana drain like that? I don't understand that at all. Anyway, people do what they do. So with the leyline, my opponent could have cast, for example, during my combat step, and then if I mana drain there, I get the mana after combat, which is an awkward place to get mana. That might have been a little bit more effective. They could have cast during my upkeep and forced me to decide if I want to mana drain before I see my next card. So for example, let's say they're sneaking out a big creature, and my next card is Swords of Plowshares, so I would prefer to plow, but I don't know that, so I decide to mana drain, then I draw the plow off the top. So then I get the mana drain in my first pre-combat main, which is also can be awkward. It's, you know, basically if they get me to mana drain at any time on my turn before either of my main phases, then it forces the mana into my mana pool during my main phase, and if I can use it, then it doesn't really pay off. But if I can't, then, you know, like that's the best chance for me not to be able to. If they do it during my end step, though, I mana drain and then come around to my next turn, well, that's just as good. That's a delay, but it's just as good as what you saw there, where I mana drain something on their turn and then they're hosed. So far I like this Serum Vision. So this is nice. It's a good card. These cards that let you go like 3+ cards deep. to dig for land are pretty impressive, and they're so humble, but they're so strong, giving you that kind of consistency. I also thought about opt. I thought about sleight of hand. I thought about what other blue ones though was I looking at? I thought about the other one that's from Ice Age, but it's a slow trip. It's not a cantrip. It's yeah, I thought about get probe. Also considered disrupt just from the just for the fact that it functions as a counter magic plus. But this isn't a format that's this isn't like Legacy where people are going to be playing cards like Ponder and Preordain right away and Brainstorm that you can disrupt reliably. So it gets a lot weaker in a format like this. But yeah, I thought about Opt, Portent, and Sleight of Hand. The problem with Sleight of Hand is, well, I don't know. Does it get you 3 cards deep? Let's say your land is 3 cards down. If you play Sleight of Hand, you put one into your hand. It's not the land you want. You put the other one on the bottom. It's not a land. And then the third card would be a land. So if you go first turn Sleight of Hand, you do get to look at your third card down. But if you go first turn Serum Visions, you draw, scry 2 cards to the bottom, and then on the next turn you get to look at your fourth card. And so Sleight of Hand, not the same card. Much like Impulse can replace a land because it goes 4 cards deep, you want to be able to go and find a land that's hiding, 4 cards down. If you're going to replace a land with it, I think 4 is the magic number because your deck should be roughly a third lands, maybe a little less, like 29. But you can throw a Mana Crypt in here, really count it as 30. You can probably throw a Soul Ring in there and count it as 31. It's close, right? So I'm about a third lands. So if I go 4 cards deep, typically I'm going to find something. Typically. I did have that game earlier, though, that was a little bit tough. And of course, Tithe is often can obstinate substitute for a land and so forth. And I don't think, excuse me, I don't think there's any other cards that actually go 4 deep for 1 mana, other than the slow trip effect of Portent. So a first turn Portent should do it. It's a ponder. You just don't get the card till the next turn. And that can be just fine. So I guess if I was going to add one more in here, I'd add Portent in here. What would that look like? Instead of, say, the Vandal Blast that I don't seem to be using too much. And that might be a little bit better just to be more consistent. Because the deck does really well, except for when it stumbles over itself. Opponent has Drownu, so got an uncounterable Confidant, some card drawing, some ramp. I don't have much for disruption. It's still a very good hand, especially going first. So I'm going to go ahead and play this, and I'm going to name human, even though this gives away the fact that they're not going to be able to counter my Breya. They're probably not counting on me having a Confidant, first of all. But secondly, if they do have a Wasteland, I don't want them killing the Underground Sea because it's a little bit better of a card, more flexible, until Elantrid comes down. Then, of course, Cavern of Souls is better. But, yeah, I don't want to risk it, so we'll do it this way. I am drawn to the idea of maybe just cutting out Vandal Blast and trying Portent as well. I just really like these early... I really like this deck fixing. I'm starting to appreciate it a lot more than I used to. And land lighter, but deck control heavier feels pretty good, ultimately. What's going on here? Getting text. Okay, man, I can't wait for this. So we're going to the best sushi place. I've been in the Army for a long time, and I've traveled a lot for both the Army and personal reasons as well. I've gone to a lot of states, and one of the things I really like to do is I like sushi. And so I've tried a lot of sushi in different states, different places. And there's way more in the country than I've tried. I'm obviously it's just just a splash in the bucket. But still, I've been, driven from Georgia to California, and I got to tell you, the best sushi that I've ever had is actually in a place in Sacramento. There's two of them actually. It's called Reiku, and I had a friend of mine from work. He had to travel to Sacramento. I really hope this opponent would go, please. 1 second, and I'll tell you this story. Please. Are you there? All right, so the lag check is passed. Anyway, so coworker was flying to Sacramento because one of our units is out here, and he was coming out to help him out with something. And I recommended this place to him. It's RAIKU, I believe. And anyway, he had his favorite place where he was from, and he was pretty sure his favorite place was, the best place. And I wasn't going to try to abuse him with a notion, but I did. Oh, okay, I see what it was. Brainstorm locked himself. All right, that was a lot of patience for nothing. I'm going to try this without the Vandal Blast, but with the Portent. I want deck control. Anyway, so um, so at any rate, I didn't try to convince him that he was wrong about his place. I just tried to convince him that the place I had was right, the right place for him to try. So he listened, and he flew to Sacramento, and he went to Reiku, and he was gone for like a week, and I totally forgot about it. I just made sure that he knew the name of the place and stuff. And he came back from this trip, and comes in the office. It's like Monday morning, and I'd forgotten about this completely at this point. And he comes up to me and he's like, Chief, and I'm like, yeah, what's up, man? And he reaches out and he shakes my hand, and he's like, he's like vigorously pumping my hand, going, I have to tell you, thank you so much. That was the best sushi I've ever had in my life. So, so I highly recommend, if any of you are viewers and you happen to be near Sacramento or Roseville, take a look at and find Reiku and see what you think. Because, yeah, it's about that good. So that's whenever my wife and I come visit family here, we always stop there on a trip. And today's the last day of our trip, and we haven't been there yet. We've been holding out because we wanted to go with family. So very soon I will be wrapping up this video. Hopefully, maybe I'll even get an opponent who will play cards and first. But at any rate, I will have to wrap this up fairly soon and then call it, because Reiku's calling to me. And this has been a pretty long video as well. Come on, opponent. What do I need to do to get my opponents to play cards? I don't like to be too impatient, but I am a little impatient. Stuff like this is not something I'm a fan of. All right, let's just talk about how to sequence this turn, since I may not even get a turn. They may be scooping. Great. So if I go land, Mox, whatever, right? On the next turn, I have no land to play. So unless I rip a land off the top, that's not great. Mox is only really good when your next turn you're going to be playing land as well. Otherwise, you're just accelerating. Otherwise, all you're doing is or if you have a play to make with the mana, you're advancing forward, and then you're going to take no step forward on the next turn. It's not stellar. But I think the play here, and if I had a third land coming, like, I think my opponent's going to go first, right? So if I draw a third land, the play is probably land, Mana Vault, pass, and then land, Mox, Spellseeker, go get, Mind Twist. But the other play I can make is first turn Spellseeker. And I could Spellseeker for a Tithe or Mana Drain, or, oh, okay, so this actually changes things. So we're going to definitely do something cool here. So we'll go blue, white, I think is what I want. So I'm going to go this route. 1, 2, 3, 4, and call it good. And my opponent gives up. Okay. Fair enough, dude. Fair enough. Yeah, so next turn I get to land, fetch this into, fetch this, and then replay it, play Spellseeker. So I was thinking of going first turn Spellseeker last turn because I could possibly go second turn Sword of Feast and Famine. But here I like this because, it's pretty gross, and on the next turn I can go Spellseeker and then go Sword of Feast and Famine and start banging cards out of my opponent's hand. So pretty cool stuff there. It's always fun to get those obscene starts. There's no reason that my opponent would have had to concede if they had an interactive hand, but clearly they didn't. Those are the kind of hands where I'm like, do I really want Portent or do I want Vandal Blast, right? So we'll see. But most of the time, this deck is better off digging for cards. I don't know if this. The problem with Portent is it's just as good in the early game for fixing your hand, maybe even a smidge better, as a matter of fact, than most of these other cards. Certainly a little bit better than Serum Visions, if you're talking about on the first turn. But on the second turn, if you top deck it, well, and you don't have a land drop, it doesn't get you there. Of course, Vandal Blast doesn't either, but it has a totally different function. But midway through the game, of course, Portent's an interesting one because if you have a Necro out, you can Portent, and then you can Necro up to 7, and you actually go up to 8 cards. So you actually get ahead. It's like banking a card for your, the same way you do with the Sensei's Divining Top. So Portent's kind of interesting in that way. But if you do top deck it, the fact that you top deck it, play it, and nothing happens, unless the card you draw off the top is an instant, is a little disappointing. I don't know about that card. I don't know. Maybe I'd rather have something like Sleight of Hand or Opt. Opt's pretty good. Best of 2. You get the third best card on the next turn. You get 3 chances. If you keep an Opt hand, a 1-land Opt hand, you need to have a land on your third by land number 3. But yeah, see, the fact that Portent allows you to find a land in the top 3 cards, and then if you don't like them, shuffle them away and still find the land, possibly. Yeah, so there's Opt and there's Sleight. I think Opt is probably the better card. It's hard to say. So Sleight gets you the best of 2, plus 1. Opt gets you the best of, possibly the best of 2, but you don't know. You take a look at the top one and say, well, this isn't good enough, and pitch it back, and you might get something worse. But you might get the best of 2, but it's an instant. The other thing about Opt is that there are occasions where the top card is what you want and the next card is what you want. So you opt into turn, you go, yeah, I'll keep that. And then you draw for the turn and you go, oh, glad I kept that too. Sleight of Hand forces one of them to the bottom. They're pretty close. I don't know. Is this any good? Is this right? But just for raw mulligan power, Portent is pretty top notch. Can be.
Good morning, Daddy.
Hello, son. How are you?
Good.
You playing with your trains? Okay.
All
right, that might get a little loud, so maybe I have to wrap it up here. Looks like I'm not really getting any opponents. I think, I don't know if the Portent experiment really is wise, or if it's just not. It's just not Vandal Blast, and maybe that's just not a good plan. Or a Lightning Bolt, right? Like, both cards are so good for early game interaction. Perhaps, I don't know. Let's see. Well, this is a weird one. I'd very much like to keep this hand. Very, very much. Turn 1 Crucible. It's amazing.
I'm going to come and sit with you.
All right, son. But not too loud, okay? I think I'm going to mow. I mean, I can do better, and it's very risky. And this is better. All right, well, there's a port and could be a Vandalblast Sun. All right, come here. All right, so I've got to tuck a card away. I'm going to tuck away Factor Fiction's way too slow right here. Um, it's my son, Thomas. Say hi, Thomas.
Hi.
All right, thank you. Um, all right, so the question is, what do I want to vamp for? I can vamp for Crypt, or I can just go get a land, which is a safe bet, right? Yes. All right. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get a land. So the reason I'm going to go get a land is then it'll allow me to play Enlightened Tutor. So let's go get Command Tower. Sounds like this will probably be the last game, so hopefully it's an interesting game for you. All right, we'll get Confidant down. See how I feel about this card, I don't know. Right now, it seems like it'd be better as a Vandal Blast, but we'll see. Oh, very nice. Definitely going to tutor here.
Ooh, it's safe.
So funny how I go get Mana Crypt with a Dark Confidant out. Okay. Okay, very good. So Opt would be better than Portent at this point, because I'd be willing to play it. Maybe Opt is better. Maybe that's a change that I should make. We'll see. We'll see. It's gonna go. It's gonna get me pretty far in my library soon. You know, Opt or Vandal Blast, I suppose. All right, let's gotta buy some time there, shall we? Okay. So what do I do here? I guess I can. All right. So what I can do is I can Urza. Get a Skull Clamp down. Get a Talisman down. Smash in with this guy. Opponent may want to Skull Clamp the may want to clamp or come down and kill the Crypt, but they may also choose to kill the Clamp at this point. So it could be a time to cash in.
Good job, Daddy.
Thank you, Thomas. I'm gonna just try this. I'm just gonna play this and target myself and go with well, the good thing is I can twist them. If they play Gitrog, can I kill it? So I can twist them, or I can Stoneforge. Let's see what we're gonna do here. Do they go for disruption, or do they go for development? So if they go for the disruption, they actually end up paying a bit of a price here. Well, maybe not. I don't know. There's not really a great scenario for them. They should have. I don't. Why would they do that and not sack the land after? Do they have a play? Doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but okay. Take one. Um, So I need to get Rog off the table before I twist my opponent, because otherwise I'll be putting lands into the graveyard from anywhere. That's a bit of a problem. Okay. All right. Let's. Do I want to? Do I want to twist? I don't think so. Great job, Thomas. I really want to get the Gitrog off the table, so so here's the thing. I can play Stoneforge with one floating, 2, 3, play the sword, equip the sword, smash in, untap my lands. I think I'm okay if I do that. It's a little risky. But I kind of like it. Feels like, I don't think, I mean, I know what one of my opponent's cards is, so I have no idea what the other one is, but so sword or Jite. So if I take sword, if I take Jite, I can just kill the Gitrog right away. I don't know. I think I like sword though. Let's do it this way. All right, son. All right, so if my opponent has removal on the sword, I can sack the sword. All creatures get -1, -1. Wait, all creatures get -1, -1? Interesting. Okay, so if I want to shrink, that is a weird choice, but all right. It's an interesting one anyway. All right, so it doesn't happen, and then I was wondering what that last card was in their hand. So now I don't have to worry about making them discard a land and draw a card. We'll take that out of their hand. I don't have to worry about Mind Twist either. The only bad thing is I'm going to be one short on... I can't kill the Gitrog right now, so... I have to Mind Twist later. Yeah, I guess I could have played that a little differently, but it'll have to do. Alright, so they sack a land here, they draw a card, and then they draw a card, and depending on what they get, if they don't get a land here, then they're in big trouble because, okay, yeah. So if they only got, like, let's say they got 2 spells, right? They could play one spell and maybe not the other one, then they're going to lose another card to Sword of Feast and Famine. If they get 2 spells that are too expensive, they like along the lines of Slime, then they can't play anything, and then they lose both of their cards to the combination of Sword and Twist. So pretty nasty situation for my opponent to be in. And then on the next turn, so I hold some mana back. I let them sacrifice and draw an extra card in their hand, which makes it even harder for them to play cards. Then immediately kill Gitrog after they've sacrificed with the card draw on the stack. So I'd kill the Gitrog, and then from there my opponent's down to just 3 mana in play. They'd have 2 cards in hand, sure, but almost no mana. So, cool. Interesting. Urza is so powerful. So very powerful. I wasn't really excited by Porton there. I think I do like the Vandal Blast. It was... It's just that slow trip effect is just a little slow. But this is really nice. I like the Serum Visions a lot. It does seem to be smoothing out the deck a bit. Um, Not that I love it, but um, there's plenty of years and years of Magic lore to show how good having that early deck fixing is. To the point that in some formats, it's not even, like Preordain, I think, is a restricted card. Ponder's a restricted card. Preordain might not be. One of them is, if not both. Brainstorm's already restricted in some formats or banned. So, very, very effective cards. Yeah, I like this though. It seems like a good mix of disruption and development, and feels really solid. Karn, I'm not missing him at all. He's just Urza. Urza's doing exactly what I want Urza to do right there. It generated how much mana? 8 or something? Crazy. It's an insane card. Um, and that's the deck. So long, winded, a little bit slow. These live games, they just don't play out the same way. Hopefully you enjoyed watching though. This is a typical day of Magic for me when I play. This is basically just how the days go. A lot of hit or miss stuff. Now I did put together like a 1v1 version of this deck that I haven't tuned in a while. Still has, I don't know, has Biforce and Vandal Blast, runs Armageddon and Ravages because you can't play with Mind Twist and you can't play with Winter Orb, which I think is just madness, but that's just how it is. Still has Karn in it. That could be cut. In fact, I could just cut that right now for Serum. But it has the lands that you can sack. We'll just do that right now. It also has the lands that you can sack over here. Oh, that's because Sensei Divining Top is banned in this format also. It's got the Fiery Islet still, and it's got the Throne of the High City, I believe. Does it? No, so it's just got the Fiery Islet? Oh, and it's got lands. But what it's missing is land tax. That's right. Now I remember. In the 1v1 version, I need to be running land tax because I'm running Armageddons. And if I'm going to run Armageddons, I need to run land tax. So I hadn't gotten around to setting that up yet, and I'm not going to do it now. But this is kind of what I would start with. Something along these lines, and then, yeah, what is the color split? Something like that. Yeah, probably put Scroll Rack and land tax in here. Scroll Rack is something of a replacement for Sensei's Dividing Top, but land tax in a double Armageddon deck makes it's kind of mandatory, most likely. Also, I would be looking at running Gush. Armageddon Gush isn't too shabby. Land tax Gush isn't too shabby. That kind of stuff. Or maybe Daze, just because following an Armageddon a Daze is pretty strong, or you can Daze their turn 4 play and then by just casting it and then untap and Armageddon away their lands before they get any further if they have a slow draw, stuff like that. Talisman's all good. Yep, we're going to get some more artifact ban in here. So this deck needs a little bit of polish for sure, but it actually already has, what, 2 basic lands? So what is the other land that I'm using here? I'm not using snow lands in here, am I? So I actually don't know what the 31st land is, because remember the other one's got 29, and one of them's the Islet, but the other one's or the Islet or whatever, but the other one is the Throne of the High City. So what is my extra land here? I have no clue. Maybe it's just the extra island. I do think that for land tax, the deck would need 3 at least, but probably 4 islands. So that is something that would need to be tweaked. All around, though, I don't enjoy the 1v1 format very much at all. I think that the Winter Orb missing is a glaring lack. Strip Mine, oh, that's missing. Strip Mine's not legal. That's a huge loss. Winter Orb, Strip Mine, and Mind Twist. I mean, 3 very important tools for this deck, all gone. So I don't really enjoy the 1v1 format, but if you wanted to start, something like this might be correct. Again, tuning the lands to get the probably 4 islands in there for your tax, and getting Scroll Rack in here somewhere, and that's about it. So anyway, Thanks, though. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed these games. The real Breya deck is so much more enjoyable to play than the 1v1 fake deck. And of course, the other thing with the Armageddons in the 1v1 that's totally different is that in this, you have all these ways to work around Winter Orb. Like you build your deck around. It's a Winter Orb deck. It's what it is. And so you've got, Urza, you've got Treachery, you've got things that, you've got Sword of Feast and Famine, cards that are designed to untap your lands under the orb. And then if you put these cards in the Armageddon style, you're like, oh, well, I Armageddoned and then I played Treachery and I had off of Artifact mana and I untapped like one land or zero. I had Urza out and I had extra mana for Armageddon, but, not, there was nothing particularly, excellent going on there, right? I had Swords of Feast and Famine out and then I Armageddon, so, I had an advantage, but I'm not untapping any lands because there aren't any in play. Stuff like that's kind of disappointing. So, Winter Orb, that's where it's at. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed yourself. Thomas, do you want to say goodbye?
Thank you. Bye bye.
And with that, we're off. We'll see you next time.
Solving.